Hey there, Frederick Douglass Elementary School. It's Mrs. Shoupard, and today I want to show you some books because we're going to be using the illustrator Eric Carle as an inspiration for our artwork today. So, you know, an illustrator is the person that draws the pictures for books. So Eric Carle is probably someone that you've heard of before because he's an author and an illustrator. So he has written a lot of books and also illustrated a lot of books. For example, if you see on this book called Mr. Seahorse, it is written and illustrated by Eric Carle because he's the only name on the book. If you look at Brown Bear, what do you see? You can see that Bill Martin Jr. is the author and Eric Carle is the illustrator. So Bill Martin wrote the words and Eric Carle did the pictures. Now the cool thing about Eric Carle is that he isn't a normal illustrator. He has a very specific style. And when you see the cover of an Eric Carle book, you can tell that he was the illustrator because he has a certain style. So here's Very Quiet Cricket. Does a kangaroo have a mother too? And the one that I would say is the most famous is the Very Hungry Caterpillar. And that's the one where the caterpillar goes through and eats all of the vegetables and all of the junk food, and then at the very end becomes a butterfly. So you've probably seen this one before, and you might have even done an art project before with the Very Hungry Caterpillar, just because it's that famous of a book. I want to show you the illustrations on the inside of Brown Bear, What Do You See? Because this is the book that gave me the idea for the project that we're going to do today. So this is my son's book, and it's one of those board books, so the pages are made out of cardboard so that babies can't rip it. But on the inside, when you look at the illustrations, you can tell that they are painted. How can you tell that they're painted instead of drawn? Is because you can see the brush strokes. Brush strokes are when you can see where the artist had their brush and they moved it in a certain direction. So I can see the brush strokes here. They went this way. You can tell where the brush was and what direction it was moving. Over here on the foot or on the leg, you can see that the brush strokes are going this way. So you can tell these are paintings and not actually drawings. Let's take a look at the next one. For the red bird, you can see that Eric Carle used red paint and then put black paint on top of it, and you can see the brush strokes, and you can see that the different color combinations. So when Eric Carle makes these illustrations, he has an idea in his mind of what the animal is going to be, and he just takes one piece of paper and paints it with the color that he needs. And he'll put certain textures on there if he knows that he's going to need hair for the horse's mane and hair for the horse's tail. He's going to paint additional colors and different brush strokes depending on the different parts of the animal. And if he just needs plain black for the feet, then he's just going to take a piece of paper and paint it straight black. So it's not that he draws a picture of a horse and then paints it. He takes a piece of paper and paints it the colors that he needs, and then he cuts it into the pieces and glues it together to make the animal. So if he was going to make the frog, he would need light green and dark green and some pink for the tongue and some blue for the eyes, and he would do that on different pieces of paper. And then when he was ready to make the frog, he would cut out the arm from the dark green, and he would cut out the top from the light green, and he would cut out the tongue from the pink and glue all the pieces together to make the animal. So it's a very specific style. It's very unique to Eric Carle. And what I want to show you today is how you can, at home, use your paints and you can make an animal that is just like Eric Carle. If you like any of the animals that are in this book, what you can do is pause your video on the page that you like. So we have goldfish, we have a black sheep, we have a white dog, and the white dog is the only one that has paint in the background too. So what Eric Carle did for this one was he painted all of the black behind it and then glued the white pieces on top to make the dog. We have a purple cat, a green frog, a blue horse, which is the one that I'm going to show you today. We have a yellow duck, a red bird, and back to the brown bear. So if you see an animal that you'd like to try at home, just pause the video on that page of the book that I showed you, and then you can find what colors you need for the paint for that animal. But like I said, I'm going to show you today how to do the blue horse. So for the blue horse, I know that I'm going to need at least 2 different kinds of blue. So let's see what blue I have at my house. I have Mediterranean blue and I have pool blue. So that's 2 different blues. That's good enough for me. Always give them a little shake. And then I have one of these things called a painter's palette. And if you don't have one of those at home, that's fine. You can just squirt your paint out onto a scrap piece of paper. That works just fine. But for today, I'm just going to be using this painter's palette. I also see that I'm going to need some white because I'm going to need to add in some of those brush strokes for the hair. So I'm going to put some white on my painter's palette. And I see a little bit of red right here for the eye, and I'm hoping that it doesn't make the horse turn out to look evil because we make the eye red. You could choose a different color, maybe purple or something, well, maybe something that stands out a little bit more, but we'll see. We'll see how the red turns out. And then I see on the inside of the eye, I'm going to need some black, and I'm going to need some black for the feet. So I'm going to put a little bit of black on here too, but I'm not going to need too much because there's not really that much black on the horse. So I'm going to set my horse picture off to the side, and I'm going to get something for the paper to sit on top of. I just took a paper bag from the grocery store and cut it up so that I could use that as a placemat so I don't get paint on my desk. And then I'm going to put my first piece of paper right here, and I'm using kind of a big brush because right now I'm just going to be filling up this paper with a whole lot of paint, and we're not going to be drawing a horse, we're not going to be painting a horse. Remember, we're just doing the brush strokes and we're doing the colors that we're going to need for the horse. So I'm going to dip my brush in one of the colors of blue, and I'm just going to start filling in the paper. And if you want to leave a couple of little areas white, you could do that as a technique so that you can use that to make it look like texture for the horse's fur. And let's see, let's maybe just fill up like about half of this paper. And that's going to be for the first color of blue. And let's rinse our brush off. Remember, when you are changing to a new color, you want to rinse your brush off in your cup of water, and always have a paper towel nearby in case you have spills, but also to wipe off the extra water so it's not drippy. And let's move on to our second color of blue. It's a lighter blue. This is pool blue. And let's see if we could do something different to add some texture. Remember, texture is the way that we make something look in art to make it look like it has a certain feeling. So if we wanted the texture to be furry, we could do something to make the paint look like it actually has fur. So let me just try this. I've never tried it. I've done this with watercolor paint before, but never actually with acrylic paint. So let's see how this goes. I'm gonna take part of my paper towel and I'm gonna squish it up and I'm gonna go over top and I'm gonna try to dab off some of the paint. It's not working too well, so let me try something else. Let me smear it a little bit. I'm gonna put my paper towel on top of the paint and I'm going to smear it a little bit, and maybe that will create a different texture. If you look really closely, you can kind of see a little bit of texture starting to come out. We could also try something else where we add both of the colors of blue on top of each other, and let's see how that looks. So I'm going to put the light blue first, and then let's see what that looks like with the paper towel, and I'm going to put some of the darker blue on the paper towel. And what happens if I just go like that to add a texture? This kind of looks like sponge painting. If you've ever done sponge painting, you take a sponge and you dip it in paint and then you just dab it up and down like this, and that gives you a different texture. Cool. So now we have the light blue, the dark blue, and a little bit of both of the blues kind of mixed together. And let's see what we can do on our second piece of paper. So I'm going to set this to the side. All right, on my second piece of paper, I know that I want to make sure I have enough room for the red for the eye, so I really don't need that much. So let me just put a little bit of red up here and then rinse my brush off. And I know I need some black for the feet and the inside of the eye, so I'm just going to do straight black for that. Make sure I have enough for all 4 feet, so I'm going to do this whole section here black. And if you want to put brush strokes in your black, you can, or if we want to try to copy Carle's blue horse, we're just going to do straight black. All right, now I need to rinse my brush again. All right, for the rest of my second piece of paper, I'm going to work on the parts of the horse that are going to be for the hair. So I'm going to need to put down a couple of different colors of blue and some white mixed in. And this also has a couple of different colors of blue for the tail and maybe a little bit of white that got mixed in to kind of make like a light color blue. So let's see how we can do that over here. And I might actually use a smaller brush for some of this. Let's get down some blue first with a big brush. So I'm going to fill in a lot. Oops, got a little bit of black on there. Oops. We're just going to use this light blue as like a background color. And somehow I got black on my brush, so that's okay. I'm just going to rinse it though. And now that I have that background color, I'm going to get my smaller brush. It's about this size, so that I can do the mane. Let me actually turn my paper this way because I know that the mane of the horse is going to kind of go more like this way. So let me get a darker blue and I'm going to do some of those brush strokes that I was telling you about. And they're going to go up and down for the hair of the horse. And it doesn't matter how many you do or how wide they are. If you don't have a bigger brush or a smaller brush or any of that, I would not even worry about it. All right, and let's go ahead and add in some of the white that we were talking about. So I'm rinsing my brush and I'm gonna find some white paint. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in some brush strokes with the white paint. Okay, starting to kind of look like blue horsehair a little bit. All right, let's try another one for the tail. So for this, I'm gonna turn my paper this way because we had the paper going this direction for this hair, so I want it to go up and down this way, but then the tail is longer going the other direction. So I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to have my brush strokes going up and down this direction, so we have the brush strokes that we need for the tail portion. So let me rinse the white paint off my brush. And I'm gonna go back to the bigger brush again, and this time, just for experiment's sake, let's just start with the darker blue this time and see how different it looks. I'm not sure if it's gonna look that much different or not. So we'll start with the darker blue this time and get our brush strokes on there. And this is basically just gonna be like a background color for the tail. And then we'll do the lighter blue on top. All right, let's rinse my brush. Okay, oh, yep, I forgot. We were changing to the smaller brush. So switch to the smaller brush for the brush strokes. And this time we're getting those long horsehair brush strokes for the tail. So these ones, I'm turning my brush on the side this time to see if I can get like a different shape for the brush strokes. So these ones are coming out a little bit skinnier, which I kind of like. You can experiment with the way that you hold your brush. This is a square brush. You might have different brushes that are more rounded on the top. So it really just depends on what brushes you have at home, and if you want to hold them like this to make the brush strokes go wider, or if you want to hold it like this on its side so that the brush strokes are thinner. It's just going to be like a whole bunch of experimenting to see how you like it. And you don't have to just use 2 pieces of paper like I am. If you want to experiment with lots of different pieces of paper and see how each one turns out, you're more than welcome to use more paper just to see if it turns out a different way. You know what? I kind of just like this the way it is. I don't even think I'm gonna add the white this time. So that'll make it 2 different types of hair for our horse, and it'll kind of make it look more like this one that Carle did, because he has a lot of the white up here, but I don't really see that much white down here in the tail. So let's just stick with what we have, and we're gonna let that dry. Once your 2 pieces of paper are dry, then you're ready to take a pencil and you're going to draw the different parts of the horse. So remember, we're going to have 2 different colors of blue. So the back leg here is like the lighter color blue. So let's find our light blue. And let's go ahead and draw a back leg. So we're gonna try to draw it as close to Carle as we can. I'm just trying to get an idea of the size that we want to do. So let's draw the leg going this way. Okay, that's the back leg. And for the body and the 3 other legs are with the darker blue. So we'll draw that on the darker blue. So we need this leg back here. And we need the body. Back over here, so we'll need the body to be like almost like that big. And then actually we can just go ahead and attach the front legs up here since it's all going to be that same color. We should add the hoofs on there so that we could put the black on top. We'll be able to glue it on top of these. So let's go ahead and add those. All right. And we're back to, let's see, we need the neck with the light blue. So I'm not exactly sure how big we should make the neck, but let's just do a rectangle for right now. And then we'll do the head out of the darker blue. And put the ears up here. Okay, so that I think is what we need for this piece of paper. Now we're going to switch over to our other piece of paper. And remember, we had drawn this for the mane, like the hair that's going on top of the neck of the horse. And it was coming out of the head, kind of like that. And then we need the tail, which was like this shape. And then the bottom of the tail kind of went like this. Okay, and we forgot the front part. So let's just imagine that this is going down the neck. Maybe we'll have it come in this way a little bit. And then let's imagine that the head is right here and the ears are right here. We do need a little bit of like a bang. So I think that's about the size that we'll need for this little piece that's gonna be up here. Let's go ahead and do the eye. So the eye does not need to be very big at all. So let's just do a teeny tiny little red circle, and we could always use just a marker to make a little black dot in there. I think Carle has a little piece of black paper. If I can get one small enough, I'll cut it out of the paper that we have here. Otherwise, I'll just use a marker because it does look like he drew a couple of things here. It looks like he drew the teeth with maybe a colored pencil or a marker, and then he did the nose also. The last thing that we want to do is use our black right here for the hooves. So the hooves are these shapes right here. They're almost triangles, so we'll do a couple of different shapes just based on what I see here from Carle. And I might be doing these a little bit too big, so once I cut these out, I'll know better if I need to trim them down a little bit, because it does look like maybe I'm drawing them a little bit too big, but that's not a huge deal. We can always just cut some of it off if after we cut it and it's too big. Now that we have all the pieces cut out and we can get a piece of white paper that we can glue all the pieces together for our blue horse. So we're going to turn over the pieces of paper and put the glue on the back. Remember, when you're gluing, you want to make sure you get around all the edges so that they stay sticking to the paper. Once you have everything glued onto your white piece of paper, you're pretty much done. The last thing I'm going to do is just add a few more little details just so it looks a little bit more like the one in the Eric Carle book. So I have a black pen, but you could use a black pencil, or you could use a regular pencil, you could use a marker, and I'm just going to go ahead and add in this little black dot in the middle of the eye. And then I'm going to add in a few teeth inside the mouth, just like little squares or little rectangles. And then the last little thing I'm going to add is this little swirl for the nostril or the side of the nose. And then we are pretty much done. So I think we did a pretty good job at making our blue horse from the Eric Carle book. And if you were able to make one of the animals from the Eric Carle book, I'd love to see it. If you could upload a picture of your painting to Schoology. I have that art assignment up there for you in the art class area of Schoology. And I do want to shout out to Nick from Miss Kybak's class, who spent his Sunday afternoon uploading pictures to Schoology, and he put up a picture for every single art assignment for the first and the second week. So shout out to Nick to doing some really awesome drawings and then showing me what he was working on Schoology. So that's awesome, Nick. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, well, I hope you had fun with Eric Carle, and I will see you tomorrow.